Welcome to Inspiration and Transformation from the Banks of the Ganga with Sadhvi Bhagawati Saraswati, an American sannyasi living at the Parmarth Niketan Ashram in Rishikesh, India. Sadhvi is president of the Divine Shakti Foundation, a charitable organization bringing education, vocational training, upliftment, and empowerment programs to women and children. Sadhvi is also Secretary General of the Global Interfaith Wash Alliance and Director of the world-famous International Yoga Festival. Join the musings of an American sannyasi as Sadhvi shares the wisdom and teachings of her guru, His Holiness Pujya Swami Chidanand Saraswatiji.
Welcome everyone to Inspiration and Transformation from the holy banks of the sacred Ganga River in the land of Rishikesh, India. So desires are the nature of the mind. That's what the mind does. It desires. It also fears. It also pushes away. Basically, it either wants to attract something to it or it wants to push something away. Either I'm pushing away because I'm afraid of something, so I push away the idea of getting eaten by a tiger or having my house robbed or something else horrible happening. Or I push it away just because I don't like it. I don't like people treating me meanly. I don't like people speaking a certain way or dressing a certain way or acting in a certain way. That's aversion. So fear and aversion push away. Desire and yearning pulls toward us. That's just the nature of the mind. It's what the mind does. I either pull things or I push things. The aspect of not feeling whole and complete goes deeper. The desire, the fear, the aversion, all of this is really the almost involuntary. We can't say exactly involuntary or exactly unconscious. It's not as unconscious as, the digestion of our food or the movement of our blood through our blood vessels, but it's almost as involuntary and unconscious as simply the digestive process in our body or the circulatory process in our body. Things that go on that we have no consciousness of at all. We don't have to think about digesting our food, it just happens. The desires of the mind, the fears of the mind, the yearning, the aversion, this is almost as unconscious and involuntary as the body. Simply because we have become unconscious in our minds. And we just allow them to run around, do their own thing. I always say that if I sat here in front of you and I started flailing my arms all over the place, and I said to you, oh, don't worry, those are just, my silly arms, they flail all over, you would think, what is wrong with her? And then if, in addition to flailing my arms all over, I also started jumping up and down on my legs, and I was flailing my arms and jumping my legs, and I said, oh, don't worry about those. Those are just, my silly arms and my silly legs, and they do their own thing. You would think, there's something really wrong with her. Because we all understand that our arms and our legs should be under our control. That they shouldn't just flail around, that they shouldn't just do whatever they want. Sleepwalking, walking while you're asleep is an illness. People go to the doctor for it. Flailing arms, an illness. So we understand that our arms and our legs should be under our control. But our mind, how many of us have just said, oh yeah, my mind, God, I have no control over it whatsoever. And then we kind of laugh it away and we move on as though that were okay. As though we shouldn't have control over our minds. but we should. Even more so than we have over our arms and our legs. Because our mind is the tool that governs what our arms and our legs do. Therefore, we meditate, we engage in sadhana, we do spiritual practice in order to focus our mind. Now, the aspect of not feeling full enough is a deeper spiritual and psychological dilemma. On a deep spiritual level, we don't feel full and whole because we're not in touch with the truth of who we are. The truth of who we are is boundless, infinite. But we move through the world identified just as this body. And so we always have kind of this subconscious, low-grade level of not quite enough, because we know our true nature is infinite, is boundless. And here we are moving through the world as just like this body, this story, this drama. So that's the spiritual part of it. And the solution to the spiritual dilemma is, of course, to be in touch with, to access, to experience the fullness of who you are, the truth of who you are, to know that you're not just the body or the story. We also sometimes have the experience of not enoughness, not being full enough, good enough, on an emotional and psychological level, where maybe we were told in our childhood, either directly or indirectly, specifically or just implicitly, that we weren't quite good enough. And so we internalized it, that there's something wrong with us. We're not smart enough, we're not pretty enough, we're not athletic enough, we're not funny enough, we're not worthy enough, we're not pure enough. And we internalize that. And so we move through the world with this pervasive sense of not enoughness. And yeah, hence we tend to desire having more things, or having a lot of external achievement so that we can finally feel whole enough, good enough. And the solution to that is first to work through whatever the psychological issue is, to acknowledge it, to see where it came from, to understand how that got into your psyche, where you learned it, and then to realize it isn't true. And then, the same way with the spiritual dilemma. We meditate, we pray, we do yoga. We have our spiritual practice, our seva, our sadhana, in which we get in touch with that truth of who we are. And then, yeah, slowly, the desires start to dissipate. Because the mind becomes more in our control. It stops running all over the place. We get more of an ability to direct where the mind goes. And so it doesn't spend much time yearning or fearing or in aversion. So there are two aspects, but they're very, very interlinked. Have a beautiful, beautiful rest of your evening, and we'll see you on Thursday. Have a wonderful, wonderful day, wonderful couple days, wherever you are in the world. And so much love to you all from these sacred banks of Mother Ganga.
You're listening to OTR FM, part of the IOM Radio Network.
Being a radio host on IOM-FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the Internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single
Circle of Hearts Radio is a sanctuary on the airwaves. Join me, Grandmother Elia, in the circle on Sunday 2 p.m. Eastern as I share information to both enlighten and nourish your soul.
Hi, this is Christina Ricci with RAIN. Every 2 minutes, another American is sexually assaulted. If you or someone you know has been sexually assaulted, you are not alone. Help is just a call or click away through the National Sexual Assault Hotline. Please call 1-800-656-HOPE, that's HOPE, or visit rain.org, that's RAINN.org.
Brought to you by RAIN and this station.
Welcome back to Inspiration and Transformation. I'm so glad to have you all back here with me. A lot of the orthodox religious traditions in the world have separations of men and women. I was raised in a Jewish family. My mom was raised in an Orthodox Jewish family. And when she was young and they would go to synagogue, to Orthodox synagogue, not only were the women separate, but there was actually a curtain that the women sat behind. Now we know that that also exists in so many other religions in different ways. So it's not only Hinduism that in its orthodoxy, in its traditional way, separates. The reason behind this in theory is that when, especially young, boys and girls, men and women, interact at the time of their lives when biological chemicals and hormones are coursing through their bodies, naturally, there's attraction. And where there is attraction, there is distraction. This is the traditional religious viewpoint. If you go to temple, to synagogue, to church, to mosque, and instead of listening to what the spiritual leader is speaking, you're looking at the cute boy in the row in front of you, or you're looking at the cute girl sitting next to you, naturally your mind is distracted. And you're not able to properly pray, to focus, to listen, to engage in the spiritual and religious practices. So that's where the tradition of separation comes, that when we go to our religious places, we should be only immersed in prayer, only immersed in connection to God, not thinking about, oh, he's cute. Oh, she's cute. Oh, I wonder if he has a boyfriend. Oh, I wonder if she's married. I wonder if I should ask them out for coffee afterwards. And that's, of course, just the cute, innocuous stuff. We know that our minds go far beyond the cute, innocuous way of thinking about each other. And so in houses of prayer, in houses of worship, in houses of God, traditionally it has been seen by so many religions that it's just better to minimize distractions, to minimize temptations. What has happened, though, is that of course has bubbled out of houses of worship and into a lot of our society. Now again, in the purity of the intention, it just has to do with removing temptation. If you don't put young men and women together you don't have temptation. Now, of course, we know in any case that isn't always true, because we know that temptation is not always heterosexual anyway. So, of course, the whole premise assumes that young boys will only be attracted to young girls, that girls will only be attracted to boys, which of course we know anyway isn't true. But what we also know is that the more you keep something away, actually the more our attraction toward it builds. When something is seen as forbidden, something that you're kept away from, we actually, just human nature, there's much more of the interest in it. So it doesn't, sociologically and civilizationally, it doesn't really work so well, but that's the premise behind it. And so it's a valid premise, it's a good premise, it's a well-intentioned premise, but it's something that we need as societies to look back and to say, all right, well, so this didn't work so well. Maybe we should rethink it. Now, the only point to mention here is in terms of schools, educational places. We do know, there have been studies done, that in all boys or all girls educational institutions, the boys and the girls do tend to actually focus more on their studies than they do in co-ed institutions, which should be very obvious to everyone. And so it's not always bad. It's not always something that we need to say every single institution, every single thing, every event should be co-ed. Obviously, some places should not be. Saunas, steam rooms, places obviously that people are in like that, it's nice to have them segregated. Run-of-the-mill places in our societies shouldn't be segregated. Somewhere in between, depending on what our ultimate highest goal is. As societies, as educational institutions, as religious institutions. We have to have the courage and the humility to actually scientifically look at this and to ask ourselves, what is working? Is the segregation achieving what we were hoping? Or is it just breeding more temptation? And this is where, like everything has to have innovations. A lot of our religious and societal norms, we have to have the courage to have innovations in them, to look and to say, does this work? And where it doesn't, to stop, to say, all right, let's try something new. So it's not so much about separation. Don't worry about that so much. It's much more about a well-intentioned, but not quite so successful way of properly managing people's prayers, their education, and their obedience to a set of norms in society. But you're right, it doesn't work so well all the time.
This is OTR-FM, part of the IOM radio network.
OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Do you have time to read that inspiring book or that blog post you've been meaning to get to? In your busy world, how do you improve yourself and keep your life going? I'm Lisa Kay, and my Between Heaven and Earth radio show can transform your life just by listening. Be uplifted with inspiring topics, positive stories, and ideas that really work. Between Heaven and Earth Radio is Conscious Living for Your Soul, every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time.
Like Baldwin with People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. I grew up loving circuses and other traveling animal shows, but it never occurred to me what life might be like for the animals. Training wild animals to do things they don't understand takes force. Routine discipline with a hook or whip with the heel of a boot shows the animal exactly who's the boss. Don't patronize animal acts. Please contact People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals.
757-622-PETA.
Welcome back. This is Sadhvi Bhagawati Saraswati with inspiration and transformation. Faith. Is faith in the divine? According to the divine's will. It's not faith in the divine so long as the divine does what I want. Faith in the divine as long as I get what I want, when I want it, how I want it. Faith means faith. And so the dilemma that a lot of us may be facing right now is, hey, wait, this isn't my vision of God. This isn't my vision of the divine. This isn't supposed to be happening. How can God be good if what I want to be happening, if what we all want to be happening, isn't happening? And that's where it's so important for us to realize that that divine, I'm connected to, that divine grace I have faith in, is intelligent. It's the same intelligence that runs this universe, that runs it so beautifully. The same intelligence that teaches a caterpillar how to become a butterfly, that teaches baby birds how to break out of their shell and then how to fly, that teaches mama birds how to build a nest, that teaches all of nature how to do everything that nature can do without ever being taught. There's no classes, there's no school, there's no training manual for becoming a butterfly, building a nest, bringing home a worm and feeding it to your baby from your mouth to its mouth. Like, where do they learn that? Do they really remember it from when they were babies? Oh yeah, my mom fed me from her mouth. There's an intelligence in the universe. And it is there for all of us. And faith is a faith in that intelligence in the universe. Faith is faith in the divine. Thy will be done. It's not about, as long as I get what I want, as long as you keep doing the things that I think are good, then I have faith. That's where it shifts into arrogance. That's where it shifts into, well, you know, if I were in charge, here's how I would do it. And I'll keep having faith as long as you do it my way. So that's more of kind of a contract basis than actually faith in God. You know, I always say the universe isn't a vending machine. With a vending machine, you walk up and you stick money in and you push a button and whatever you want comes out. And if you're 400 pounds and your teeth are rotten and you've got diabetes and you push the button for potato chips or chocolate bar, it's going to come. The machine doesn't care that you're 400 pounds overweight, that your teeth are rotten, that you're diabetic. But in life, we push that button for chocolate bar and we get, a bag of celery. And first time we think, the machine is broken, and we put in our money again and we push the button again and now we get a bag of carrots. And then we kick the machine. We think the machine is broken. I've got the wrong machine. This is where we lose faith. Maybe I've got the wrong religion. Maybe I've got the wrong guru. I'm chanting the wrong mantra. I'm going to the wrong temple or church or synagogue. Or we give up faith altogether. But God isn't a vending machine. It's not about what I want. It's about thy will be done. And faith is, I have faith in you, God. And even though I don't understand this one, even though I don't like this one, I am aware that if I could just take enough steps back and see the full tapestry of what this looks like, that I would understand and go, yeah, now I get it. Up close, it looks really bad. Really bad. But faith says, oh God, I am aware that if I have the ability to see this full tapestry, not just today's intersection of time and space, but the full tapestry, I will understand why this is not only necessary, but good. I will understand why this is not only necessary, but good, and why it is the direct result of all of the karmic threads that have woven into this moment. Because God's not sitting up there with a magic wand going, I know epidemic, I know hunger, I know wealth, I know poverty. We are weaving our karmic threads. And it's not about good or bad or rewards or punishment. It's about the seeds we plant. And we've planted seeds of separation from each other, from Mother Earth. We've planted seeds of warped views of development, warped priorities, warped values and ethics, warped ways that we spend our money, personal money, government's money, for too long. And today what we're seeing is the repercussion of that. If you jump off a roof and you fall to the ground and go splat, you don't lose faith in God because you went splat when you walked off a building. You realize, oh yeah, there's God, but there's also this thing called the law of gravity. And it pulls everyone down should you walk off the building. And so while we have faith in God, we recognize that we also have to use our own intelligence not to walk off the building, because if we do, there's this law of gravity. So in the same way, when things like this happen, that hurt so much, it's not about, oh God, why did you do this? It's a question to us of, oh us, when we knew that there were these laws of karma, these laws of ripple impact, these laws of connection, these laws of environmental destruction, these laws that we've known exist. Why did we keep weaving the threads of our own destruction? When we knew that we were simultaneously building and creating these laws. We've got God's laws, the universe's laws, gravity, karma, ripple impact, the law of oneness. But we were all living in this false vision that we thought was a truth of separation. We were living in this falsehood, this image of invulnerability. The universe is just setting us straight. The divine is just abiding by the divine laws. So don't lose faith in God. But recognize that the divine will doesn't always do what I want. Not my vending machine, not my magic wand. And that the very best way I can ensure that that which I want to happen happens is to recognize the intelligence of the universe, recognize the laws created by the divine in this very tangible world, and live accordingly. Pujya Swamiji always says, follow the rules and enjoy your stay. And this is really a wake-up call for us in this. But it's not about faith. Don't lose faith. Faith is essential right now. But we let go, as you said so rightly in the question, of the arrogance that makes us think that we somehow, we know best, or that we have the right to have whatever we want happen regardless of what we've done. This is just the most natural consequence of the choices we've made. Now we pray, oh God, let us make different choices. At least let us wake up in this moment and live differently. And have faith. Have faith in the laws that God has given us. Have faith in the truths that we've been given by our scriptures, by our gurus, by our sages and saints that have told us. We are one. We are connected. What you do ripples out on the world. You are not living in a vacuum. There's no place you end and the world begins. The creation is sacred. The water, the air, the soil, all the species, our fellow brothers and sisters, sacred. Serve them, preserve them, take care of them. And let us re-pledge to live according to these laws of Dharma, so that we can stop suffering these horrendously painful repercussions.
This is OTR-FM, part of the IOM radio network.
OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Do you have time to read that inspiring book or that blog post you've been meaning to get to? In your busy world, how do you improve yourself and keep your life going? I'm Lisa Kay, and my Between Heaven and Earth radio show can transform your life just by listening. Be uplifted with inspiring topics, positive stories, and ideas that really work. Between Heaven and Earth Radio is conscious living for your soul, every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time.
Baldwin with People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. I grew up loving circuses and other traveling animal shows, but it never occurred to me what life might be like for the animals. Training wild animals to do things they don't understand takes force. Routine discipline with a hook or whip with the heel of a boot shows the animal exactly who's the boss. Don't patronize animal acts. Please contact People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals.
757-622-PETA.
Welcome back. This is Sadhvi Bhagawati Saraswati with Inspiration and Transformation. She said, when I was growing up, my father always said, oh, you should be careful what the others are going to think about you, or you don't want to be like the others. Who are these others, and should we even care?
The others are talking about.
There is no other. On the highest, truest level, there is no other. It's all us. The practice of creating others is an essential ingredient in almost all of the really destructive practices we have. And this is true in terms of personally destructive. So if on a personal level I am worried, oh my God, what will the others think? I'm afraid to live my truth. I'm afraid to speak my truth. I'm afraid to take risks. Oh my God, what if the others laugh at me or think I'm a fool? So it's destructive personally. It gets even more destructive when we start in communities, because the others start to be, parents tell kids, don't play with them. The other ones, people of the other color or the other religion or from the other side of the tracks or the other types of people. And it creates these sanskaras, these impressions in the minds of children who then become adults and the leaders of our nations and our world, that somehow there's a we and there are others. And who the others are may change as the years go by. It may have begun by people from the other side of the tracks. It may end up becoming people of a different religion, of a different sexual orientation, of a different socioeconomic status. But I've got that habit of othering. And it creates separation. It also, you'll notice, traps us. Because if this is us, if I had a pen and this were us, and that were them on the outside, well, I've also just put us in jail. Because I have defined us based on what we are not. And that sticks us in jail, because when we speak spiritually about saying we are infinite, we are divine, we are whole and complete and all, well, we don't fit in a little hole like that, little circle like that, a very well-defined little box. But as long as there are going to be others, there has to be a very well-defined we. Otherwise, how do you decide who's us and who's them? And so it separates us from them, but it also sticks us in a box. And that's very dangerous. And lastly, it becomes lethal, because when we are engaged in violence, in war, or even in issues of world hunger, for example, our ability to other the other makes us able to harm them. And so, for example, long before the Holocaust, long before the Nazis of Germany killed 12 million people, 6 million Jews, and 6 million others, Hitler had started an extraordinary psychology of propaganda, convincing the German people that the Jews were others, different. All sorts of different cartoon-like designs about them, all sorts of rumors. The Jews are like this, they are like that. In America, when we had slavery in America, the white Americans did the same thing about the African Americans. Same type of propaganda. Oh, they don't feel like we feel. They don't have feelings like we have feelings. Otherwise, how could you possibly be a good-intentioned, otherwise nice family from Mississippi and have a human being who happened to be black in skin color as a slave tied up in your yard? If you actually understood they are us, there is no way you could do that. And so all of the times in history where absolute atrocities have been wrought upon people of a certain color or religion or race or belief system, it has only been able to happen because of a widespread propaganda that they are different than we are. They don't feel like we do. They don't think like we do. They are different. This is what enables us to let tens of thousands of children, for example, die of starvation every day, while we continue to financially support the livestock industry of animal agriculture, of the production of meat, because we want to eat hamburgers and hot dogs and chicken McNuggets. If the children who were dying of starvation were the children in your kids' kindergarten class, nobody would do it. There's nobody on earth who would actually walk up to a child they knew and grab the bread out of the hands of a starving child they knew. But because the kids dying of hunger are them, and they're of a different color, of a different race, in a different country, of such a different socioeconomic status that we can't even imagine it happening to us, we're able to tolerate it. But if it were something we thought could happen to us, we would take completely different measures. And this is why this us versus them thinking is so deadly. Because it begins just what seemingly innocuously. You're going to raise your children right. They're not going to have the wrong friends. They're going to play with the right people. And we end up creating global societies in which people are dying of hunger while we're producing food for 10 billion people a day. Where people are going without while so many have more than they need because it's them. Where people are killing and harming because it's them. And interestingly, this coronavirus gives us this beautiful opportunity, actually, and I think this is one of the great karmic outcomes of it. There is no them. There really is no them. It's perhaps the first time, I'm not an epidemiologist, I'm not a historian, but perhaps it's the first time that which happened in a city in central China created the type of ripple impacts on every street in every country. Grocery stores in LA are empty. Because of a disease that began in a city in central China. In a matter of, 6 weeks, 8 weeks? That ripple is so fast. And it's given us, I think, this extraordinary wake-up call. There is no other. And if we can actually take this lesson from it and realize that we no longer live in a world, we never did, but now especially we don't, where there can be any lines. Because every day everybody's moving across lines. And what you thought was them now is us. So if we adopt the awareness that there are no others, we begin a path of spiritual truth that then I think will lead us to a beautiful place of planetary health and planetary oneness, and the possibility to begin to really live as the global family that our spiritual traditions tell us we are.
This is OTR-FM, part of the IOM radio network.
OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Do you have time to read that inspiring book or that blog post you've been meaning to get to? In your busy world, how do you improve yourself and keep your life going? I'm Lisa Kay, and my Between Heaven and Earth radio show can transform your life just by listening. Be uplifted with inspiring topics, positive stories, and ideas that really work. Between Heaven and Earth radio is conscious living for your soul, every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time.
Baldwin with People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. I grew up loving circuses and other traveling animal shows, but it never occurred to me what life might be like for the animals. Training wild animals to do things they don't understand takes force. Routine discipline with a hook or whip with the heel of a boot shows the animal exactly who's the boss. Don't patronize animal acts. Please contact People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals.
757-622-PETA.
Welcome back. This is Sadhvi Bhagawati Saraswati with inspiration and transformation. How do you find the strength to do that which you know in your heart is right? The strength to do that which we know is right comes not from willpower, it comes not from determination. Too many of us are living our lives in this squeezed, nails into palms, squeezed self-discipline, self-will type of way. But no, life shouldn't be that much stress, that much perspiration. What it shows us, though, is how much our minds are still being pulled by this illusion of desires, of fears, of ego, of so much that keeps us actually from living the truth of who we really are. Because if I know in my heart that something is right, it shouldn't really require much strength to live and to do. If my heart is in alignment with my actions, we're all good. The problem comes, though, when the mind is not in alignment and the mind is saying, oh, but that doesn't seem like it's going to be fun. Or the ego comes in and says, but that's not fair. What about what I want? What about me? When the ego plays those games, that's when we suffer. And so if you know in your heart that something is right. That strength should be there from the heart. When the heart is telling us, act this way, move this way, make this decision, that's our real internal compass, or what Pujya Swamiji calls our internal GPS. Now, it's important to know, though, that when we say heart, we don't mean just my impulses or my reactions. Sometimes the heart is that immediately says, oh, I've got to have it. Oh, I want that. Oh, that looks like fun. We call it the heart, but that actually isn't a pull of the heart. That's actually a pull of the mind. It's actually a pull of the desires. It's a pull of us getting co-opted, grabbed, distracted by something from outside, whether it's a marketing technique, whether it's propaganda, whether it's what someone else said or did. But that isn't heart. The heart is that which operates in oneness. The heart is really that which is deeply, deeply connected to the core of who I am. So if you know that something is right in your heart and you don't have the strength to do it, then the question that you need to ask yourself is, who's running my show? If my heart knows it's right, who's making my hands move? Who's making my legs move? Who's making my mouth move? And why have I lost control over that? And that's the very, very, very important question. So go within your heart deeply. Let that be your compass, but not the heart, again, that's this pull of desires or pull of lust, but the heart that really is that seat, that source of intuition, of love, of oneness. Let that be that which guides you in your thoughts, in your speech, in your actions, in your decisions. And then you're going to find yourself much more in deep, deep alignment. This brings to a close this hour of inspiration and transformation. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm so glad to be together with you all each week. And I look forward to being together again next Thursday, same time, on OMTimes Radio.